Mesilat Yesharim, page 155. So he says, every level that you could possibly achieve. Eno ela chesed el alav, it's only a chesed to a person that that he let's see the translation. Any virtue that he acquires is nothing less than a divine act of benevolence. Im hayato mitzad tiv'o b'chamiyato shafal v'nivza ad ma'od. Because by himself, we've got nothing going for us. We are nothing. He translated, our nature is physical, lowly, and shameful. Therefore he must thank one who has granted him in this manner and humble himself before him all the more so. This is analogous to a pauper who has received a gift. Such a person has to feel shame, and the more he is treated with kindness, the greater will his shame be. And the same applies to any individual, for his eyes are open and permit him to see that his attainment of his virtues is from the eternal, blessed be he. As David the Melech said, how can I repay the eternal for all of his kindness to me? So this is very similar. This is along the lines that we say in the davening at the end of Rabbi Tzion. We have this line that says, let me just call it up. We say, Buch hu Elokeinu shaboreinu likvodo. Blessed is God that created us to honor him. In other words, I've seen this many times, that the same thing, but when it's done for somebody important, gets tremendous respect. I was invited to something at the White House. It was a prayer breakfast or something. And to be honest with you, I didn't think it was such a big deal. I was not actually impressed. Nothing. And but when I told people about it, I was just in the White House. They thought it was like the biggest thing since sliced bread. And I've seen the same thing in England, that people view visiting the Queen or even the Queen, but going to Buckingham Palace and things like that. The same thing. I had an old friend who was in the restaurant business, and he was invited to be a butler in Buckingham Palace. And he thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I'm thinking to myself, you're just serving food. What difference does it make? So there is a reality to the same act, but in a different context, can have a tremendous value and sense of meaning to our lives. We feel very different. I remember the story of a janitor in a warehouse, and the CEO is walking through the factory, and he stopped the janitor and he said, "What is your job here?" And he says, "I'm building defibrillators to save people's lives." Now he's cleaning the floors and cleaning the bathrooms and taking out the garbage, but he didn't identify that. He identified that he's part of a very important mission that he's engaged in. In fact, Rabbi Yaakov Weinberg used to tell this story of this social experiment that they made, and they took minimum wage workers and they stationed them along a conveyor belt, and their job was to put nuts on bolts. A very simplistic job. But what they did was, after about an hour, they turned the conveyor belt backwards, and now they had to take the nuts off the bolts. And it didn't matter how much they paid them, double or triple time, they wouldn't do it. People wouldn't do it. Even though it's the same job, it's the same work, but nevertheless, if you feel that your purpose, what you're achieving is not meaningful, you can't do it. People have to have a sense that what they're doing is something meaningful. So this fits into the very famous Talmudic story about one of the Roman soldiers that approached one of the rabbis and said, "You guys don't believe in God." This is why not? Because there's nothing more perfect than a baby. When a baby comes out of the womb, that's it. That's as good as it's ever going to get. It's downhill from now on. So what do you guys do? You cut a piece off. You can't improve on God. Right? This is the best it's going to be. So the rabbi explains, you don't understand. Which do you eat? Wheat from the field or bread? So he said bread. So he said it's the same thing. What was he trying to say? So you see, the Almighty made wheat. He could have made bread. The physiological gap between dirt, you take dirt on one side, right, and bread on the other side, right? The gap between a kernel of wheat and the bread is infinitesimally small relative to the great achievement you have above just dirt. So God creates the wheat. That's already an amazing thing. You take that thing and you grind it down. You just winnow it. You separate it from the chaff. You winnow it. You grind it down. Traditionally, three professions: the farmer, the miller, and the baker. And you turn it into bread, and you feel good about yourself that you did such a thing, right? And anyone who makes a challah on Friday night, oh, look at this! Look what you did. What did you do? You took wheat. There's already a miracle of existence. In other words, go do the same thing with a pebble. Go do the same thing with a chip of wood. It's impossible. So you took something that's already amazingly sophisticated, the same as a doctor. The doctor goes in, the guy's nearly dead. You come in, do this, and he walks out the hospital. You feel great. What do you mean? I'm not minimizing what you do at all, right? But what did you do? You took a human body that's already a marvel of engineering, right? And you made it function a little bit. A doctor once told a friend of mine, he said that we can only help a tiny percentage, less than 1% of the ailments of a human being. If more than 1% of you are breaking down, you're dead. Right? If it's less than 1%, it's really smaller than 1%. But if it's less than that percentage, you never go to the doctor. We can only treat a very tiny percentage of the malfunction of a human being. So why does God make it so that human beings function 100%? Because otherwise doctors wouldn't feel good about themselves. Right? And not just mean doctors. People who bake challah wouldn't feel good about themselves. Your wife who makes challah on Friday, right? She wouldn't feel good about herself. Because the Almighty could have made the world. So out of the field pops wheat. In fact, the Midrash says that's exactly what did happen. Not wheat, bread, right? Until Adam had different ideas. A whole nother story there. But the point is, we need that, and this is exactly the point of what the message of Gan Eden is all about, is we need the experience of doing something meaningful. So the Almighty leaves off, he builds a world that's 99.99999% perfect. And he leaves a tiny little bit so that we can complete our role. We can feel good about ourselves. And that's what we say in davening every morning. That's what the Mesilat Yesharim is saying now. Every ability that we have to achieve anything to which we could ascribe arrogance is stupidity, because it's just the Almighty giving us the space to make us feel good about ourselves so we could do something meaningful. Instead, people use it to everybody asks this question. The people who have lots of money, so why doesn't God give it to somebody else? Why do you give it to them? Because he's giving them an opportunity to have meaning in life. They're the people who could, They do, I don't know, mostly, but to some degree, it makes them feel good. It's their ability, and everyone has that space where they can do something that's meaningful in life. Everyone's got something in their life that has something missing that you can fill that hole. Everybody has a neighbor, a friend, a relative. Everybody has family. Everybody has themselves, maybe, whatever is it, the world. Everybody has something in which they see they could make a difference. And that's what you're here for. The Almighty gives you that opportunity, creates a world 99.99% perfect, so that you will have the ability. And unfortunately, some people take it and they use it to think of themselves as better than other people. And that's a tragedy. And you cut yourself short by doing that, because when you do that, the Almighty, very often will say that's it's enough. You're abusing this power. It's exactly the message with Bilam. Bilam had an opportunity to make a massive, meaningful difference in the world, and God gave him the ability to do such a thing, but he abused it. He used it for arrogance instead of realizing his role of what he could have done. Making sense?
So the prayer at the end of Uva L'Tzion,
yeah.
How does it say that you have this opportunity?
Baruch Hu Elokeinu, blessed is He our God, Shebarenu Likvodo, who created us to honor Him. Right? Remember if I can share. Let me see if we can share. How do you share? There you go. Share screen. There you go.
To honor Him by being thankful for the.
Right. See it?
Aha.
Baruch Hu Elokeinu, Shebarenu Likvodo. God created us to. Blessed is God that He created us to honor Him. Meaning that we, it's a incredible thing that the Almighty gives. It's like your kids. You let them play with your when they're little with your doctor's uniform. It makes them feel good. They're like, oh, I'm a doctor too, right? Right?
Stethoscope.
The stethoscope, right? Exactly the same kind of thing, right? By giving people, we emulate God by giving people the opportunity to be meaningful. So we can't be meaningful by turning a rock over. We can't be meaningful by flipping coins. How can we be meaningful by doing something that's meaningful? What's that? Bringing God into the world. That's honoring God. It's not that God needs the honor. It's not like you're going to say to him, God, you're really great. And he's going to go, oh, well, thanks very much. I really appreciate that. He doesn't need it. But when we bring God into it, when we connect people with God, when we connect people with meaning, we make people's lives more meaningful. We are bringing God into the world, and it makes their lives meaningful. It makes our lives meaningful.
But aren't we saying God is great? Like when we say Hashem Hu Ha Elokim, or Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach.
Right? Yeah, for sure.
Aren't we saying God, Hashem, you were great?
Yeah, right. But it's not that God needs it. He's not going, oh, I'm having a hard day today. Oh, look, all the people think I'm cool. Right? It's not what's going on. We need it. We need to experience God in a meaningful way. So that's why we're saying it. It's good for us to say such a thing, to connect with God, to realize who God is. Gives us fulfillment.
And so the people, like when you were invited to the White House or to your friend to Buckingham, it gave a meaning to your friend, even though he's just serving food.
Yeah, these people think it's a cool thing to do. I'm not that.
But it's not meaningful.
Doesn't do anything for me.
It's not really meaningful.
No, it's not meaningful. No.
It's it's counterfeit.
It's counterfeit, right? Exactly. Right.
Because they're not bringing God into the world without action.
Yeah, it doesn't. What does it do? Maybe it maybe improve my stature, which I doubt, but that's why people want to do it. So, I thought it was a waste of time. Don't tell the president.